Our first topic of the day today, though, guys, is whether or not the Bears are a good football team. And our first topic, as always, is brought to us by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is simple to use, and you can bet on literally anything, from spreads to player props and over-unders and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And today's winning ticket comes from Joshua Heisler, who cashed out on a Devontae Adams 3-part parlay, over receptions, over yards, and an anytime touchdown score. He made a 2,000% return on his profit. $5 bet, $105 win. So shout out to Josh Heisler for his winning FanDuel ticket. But as I mentioned, guys, the Bears, as it stands today, would have the 5th pick in the NFL draft, also the 1st pick from Carolina, but their own pick would be 5th, and they're one game out of the playoff race in the NFC. So when you look at that, the highs and the lows, do you think the Chicago Bears are a good football team?
The Bears are not a good football team, guys. They're not hideous. They're not the Panthers. They're not the Patriots. But they're not a good football team.
But they sit in the 5 spot.
I mean, that's more a reflection on just the bottleneck of the
NFL.
Well,
it makes Pete Rozelle is smiling right now because he wanted parity, and here it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think from 5 to 30, there's, it's or 6 to 30, whatever. It's not a huge gap.
6 to 20 for sure, I would say.
Yeah, I don't even think
because if you go 30, that means you're throwing either San Francisco, Philly, or Dallas in with Chicago. I can't do that.
Yeah, well, whatever. I'll move it to 6 to 29. But. I look at the Bears, and I didn't think that highly of them. I said yesterday they're better than I thought they'd be because I thought they'd be Panthers and Patriots bad, and they're a step above that. But then I mentioned earlier to some of the guys that I was on my podcast this morning. We did a crossover with the guy in Chicago, Dan McNeil, who's been covering, Chicago sports for 1,000 years, and he was like, "Nah, the Bears stink." He's like, I expect the Browns to win by double digits. He thinks they're a fraud even for the games they've won recently.
They most recently beat and played well against the Lions.
I know, and he thinks the Lions are kind of coming apart here at the end of the season. But he does not give a lot of credibility to any of their wins outside of the Lions win. It's his opinion. But I look at the Bears. I think they're a below-average team, a middling team at best. They're, okay on defense. They got 1 or 2 guys. They're okay on offense. When Justin Fields plays great, they got a chance to win. If he's mediocre or worse, they've got no chance to win. So no. To answer the question, they're not a good team.
Jay, good or bad?
I'm with Bull. I don't think they're a good team at all. They've defensively they've been better. They've been forcing turnovers the last few weeks. I forget I think it's 11 over the last 3 games or something like that. They've done a nice job of generating turnovers, and obviously that's been a problem for the Browns at times this year. Is giving defenses a short field or giving opponents a short field. So that's one concern.
Aren't they one of the tops in the leagues at giveaways?
Yeah.
So
that
might be troublesome.
That's the one thing that could level this out.
Yeah.
But if the Browns play a clean game and hold on to the football, I don't have a lot of faith in Justin Fields. I haven't. He hasn't really shown a ton. I think.
Do you think he's showed improvement this year?
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, I think he has. I wouldn't want him as the franchise quarterback of my team.
So if you're in management, then you're using either the 1st or the 5th or wherever they end up.
I think he's probably getting traded. Yeah, I think he's probably getting traded this offseason.
Interesting.
I would think, right?
Pittsburgh and Atlanta are said to be eyeballing him.
Yeah, and he's a guy that maybe could benefit from a fresh start elsewhere, although I don't know if Pittsburgh's really the answer, if that's really going to do a whole lot for you. We'll see how they overhaul the offense this offseason. But no, I don't. Chicago doesn't scare me. This is a game in our race to 10 and how to get to 10 wins. Even prior to the Jacksonville game, this is the one I had circled: Chicago, the Jets, and the Bengals. That's your path to get there. So I fully expect the Browns.
Okay, so bad.
Well, just because I think that the Browns are going to win the game does not mean that the Bears have to be a bad team. I actually think they're pretty good. At the end of the season, everybody's good. You look at it, New England
except the Chargers.
Yeah, there you go.
God.
Listen, woo!
42-0 at halftime.
Richard Sherman was half kidding but half serious. He made the first comments in the halftime show.
Yeah.
And he said, they need to make NFL history and fire him now.
Fire him at halftime.
And he was half kidding, but there was some seriousness to the tenor of his comments.
It's hard. He's a local guy.
No, I know he is.
They
But
got-
good. That's what it looks like when a team quits on their head coach.
At this point, what's the point? They're just going to wait till the end of the season, probably. But go ahead, G. Sorry.
I look at it like this. The Bears can give you some things. You look at their record, 5-8, right? One of the 3 best teams in the league, if you would have asked somebody last week, would have been the Lions, the Dallas Cowboys, and the San Francisco 49ers. They beat them. Right now, we gave them an L. They're 9-4. They're 5-8 right now. You take a look at the Cleveland Browns. We're 8-5, right? But guess what? You could have taken the 49ers. That could have been an L. The Colts could have been an L. There's plenty of games that we won by a hair that could have easily went the other way, and we could be 5-8. When you take a look at what Justin Fields is doing, is he showing more as he was going to be a franchise quarterback? Some would argue that. But one thing he does offer is his legs and his mobility, and that has been shown to hurt the Browns a little bit. DJ Moore, I know, is banged up a little bit. That guy can play football. And you look at Montez Sweat. You talk about people in their defense. Yes, their defense is not great, but look at what he's done. And I know Mikey McNuggets, if he's smart, he'll have a Montez Sweat since stat for us.
Look at the screen, G.
Oh, since, right, there you go. Since Montez Sweat has come along, they're playing much better defensively. They offer some things to you. They got a pass rusher to get after you. So to me, are they a great team? No. But they're a team that I think you got to respect, and you got to come in and play right, and you can't have turnovers, especially given what we got on our roster and our injury problems. They are a decent team, and you're going to have to come out there and beat them.
Yeah, because it's either or, I'm going to go bad. Just because, the old saying, you are what your record says you are. And for every win they have that could have been a loss, they probably have a loss that could have been a win. I'm going to make an overarching statement about the NFL right now and see if you guys agree with this. I think all 32 teams are in 2 camps. There are the good teams that can play bad, and there are the bad teams that can play good. We've seen the 49ers stub their toe for a 3-game stretch.
Yep.
Now we're watching the Philadelphia Eagles stub their toe during a 3-game stretch. The Cowboys inexplicably had an ugly loss to the Arizona Cardinals. What happened there? So I think what we have right now in the NFL is really, I call it Pete Rozell's dream. He was all about parity, because in his world, and really you can see it coming to fruition in the AFC, the more teams that are in it in week 13, the more the cash register rings, because those markets are all watching intently. What the league does not want is 6 good teams, 20 bad teams, and 6 middling teams. What they have right now is 6 really good teams, 6 really bad teams, and 20 teams that can beat anybody on any given Sunday, and as a result, they can lose to anybody on any given Sunday.
I don't even think there's 6 really good teams.
Yeah, I would go even farther and maybe say 3-3 and the rest in the middle.
Yeah.
Here's why I say that. I have to say really good teams are teams that I say can win the Super Bowl. There's actually a bigger number than that in my mind this year. Yes, you've got the elites. And right now to me it's 3. But you can also point to evidence on all 3 and say, are they really elite? Are they really good? Because they've shown stretches this year where they haven't been.
But Jay, every team, the best teams every year have times when they don't play well.
Exactly. That's my point. That's exactly my point. So when we're trying to classify the Lions, no, I don't have them in my really good, clearly. They're very close to my really bad, but I think they're in the middle of those 20 teams. It was fascinating last night on Thursday Night Football on Amazon when they showed the 2 conference playoff pictures. There are, and we talked about this on the show yesterday, 6 teams at 7-6 in the AFC. There's 1 7-6 in the playoff record, in the playoff hunt in the NFC, and a host of 6 and 7s. So 7-6 in the AFC is to the NFC what 6 and 7 is.
The AFC is way better top to bottom.
Much more.
But the NFC has the best teams right now.
I agree with that. Now, it's also interesting because, the NFC teams are playing more NFC teams. You're playing the conference games. You're playing your divisional games. So I always ask this question during a regular season, for instance. Like, yeah, I do it in baseball as well, particularly when it was a weighted schedule so heavily. How good are the Guardians? They're playing the Central a third of their games, and the Central sucks.
Yeah.
And then we would find out once they would intermingle in the playoffs. I don't know if the NFC has so many bad teams that the NFC elites have been beating up on them and bulking up their record. In the case in the AFC Central to me, or AFC North to me, is everybody in that division is really good, and they're stacking up wins against other teams from other divisions that are not. And as a result, you've got a bunch of teams with 500 records and with playoff paths. I just think for me, the Lions, if I had to classify them, I just think they're closer to a bad than a good.
I don't. I actually think I don't know how we got to the Lions, but
You said the Lions.
I'm sorry, the Bears. The Bears.
Oh, the Bears.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't either.
I was confused there.
No, the reason I was going to say that is because
They beat the Lions
the
last
most
week,
recent game for them, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched more of it than I otherwise
Yeah.
would have because they're our next opponent. What I kept saying when I was watching that game was the Lions are going to find the switch and they're going to flip it and they're going to win.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And the
But didn't
Bears, I
happen.
thought, did a really good job of squashing any momentum that the Lions would build.
Yeah.
And that's what good teams do, but I just don't think they're a good team. And this is a game that, for me, I know the Lions closer than I would have it. I don't see the Lions or the Bears being able to beat the Browns. I just don't.